anyone who thinks the fight between Cara Dune and the Mandalorian even hints at wokeness, you missed a major detail in the episode.
And then he had his light shot. Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Welcome to Rot 10, ladies and gentlemen. Rocking the flask today. Most of you punks probably don't even get that reference, which is probably why you missed this detail in The Mandalorian. You ADD motherfuckers. Okay, let's get this started. Anyone who hasn't seen episode 4 of The Mandalorian, this is your spoiler warning. So, exit if you don't want spoilers. In episode 4, the character Cara Dune is introduced. At this point, Mandalorian is on the run with Baby Yoda. He's made a decision. He's gone against his code, and he's seeking refuge. So he finds a relatively remote planet, with a low population. He enters into an establishment on this planet with Baby Yoda. He instantly notices Cara Dune's character. And shortly after he arrives, she vanishes. Now, he goes outside to try and find her, and she attacks him. Now, she's fighting for her survival. Okay? And he is just mildly defending himself. This is not a real fight. And this is absolutely backed up in the next scene, because it's made clear Cara Dune's character is also on the run. And when she saw the Mandalorian, she thought that maybe he was there for her. So for her, this was possibly a fight for absolute survival. Now, when the Mandalorian goes out to try and engage her, to try and let her know that that is not the case, that that's not what's happening, she attacks with everything she has. Because she's under the impression it might be for survival. And he is not fighting her to win. He's not fighting her to hurt her at all. He's just getting through it, getting to a point where the reality of the situation can sink in. And then it's disclosed that she thought that he might be there for her, and he was just trying to let her know that he wasn't there for her, and he's on the run himself. So any notion, not only did she not win him in a fight, it was completely explained in the context of the sequence of events that this wasn't even a real fight. This was not a fight. Even some people are trying to argue that she could, because she's legit, because the actress is actually, she's an MMA fighter, she has training. And then, of course, within the context of the character, she is a warrior, a soldier. And that this somehow, could justify that she could overpower. No, that was not what was happening. He was not fighting her. He was just, again, mildly defending himself because of the situation. It's a misunderstanding. This was not a legitimate fight. There's no reason to even justify that she could win him or not. That isn't even the point. And the show gave everything we needed to understand that. So this altercation between these two characters means nothing. And further, I feel like, they obviously know each other. There's a history there. He knows her past. They're buddies. This is like, if Rocky and Apollo getting together by themselves for, a little fist fight competition. It wasn't a real fight. So that's completely, just eject that. It doesn't mean anything. These two, they have a history together. They're basically buddies, you know. And I think that was made pretty clear. And I think it's pretty cool. And it hints that there could be a really strong storyline and connection between these two throughout the series, which I think is great. I like the character, Cara Dune. I think it's done really well. I don't think it was presented in any kind of SJW woke way at all. She's a competent, accomplished soldier. He knows that. And there was nothing about it that suggests any kind of nonsense going on. Now, that isn't to say that the episode doesn't have any issues, because, well, it has some issues. This is the first episode of The Mandalorian where I felt like the length of the episode was actually a problem. The first three, like everyone else, I was worried that, it would be an issue. But it hasn't been. This episode, it needed a full hour. It needed a full hour to make the events that transpired believable. So this is a problem with the show, and I feel like they needed to either break this storyline into 2 episodes, or they just needed to do an extended episode. This is the age of streaming. You don't have to have a set length for an episode, and I know there some people are like, they want it to be set. I don't, base it on what is needed to tell the story you're trying to tell. I think that's fine. This needed to be longer. Too much happens. Fundamental things. I mean, there was even a moment where it seemed like the Mandalorian was going to allow his helmet to be removed. And it's like, that's his code. That's what he lives by. This is the way. He's not, for him to even consider allowing something like that to happen, there had to be more there. It was too short. I get the impact of what they were trying to do, and I think all the ideas were good. It was just compressed into too short of an episode. It wasn't given time to breathe and become something. More time should have passed with him in this village, in this environment. And it could have been powerful. So, yeah, the lengths of these episodes could start becoming a real problem if they don't allow themselves to tell stories over more than one episode. If they're all going to be kind of these self-contained little pieces, these little vignettes, then that could become a problem. And I think they should allow themselves to have part 1, part 2, or even 3 parts, where it's necessary, or just let them have longer episodes, whatever it takes. But that's the only chink in the armor that I felt was there with episode 4. And the idea that nobody in the village knew how to use a gun. I don't give a damn that it was a woman that knew how to fight. That has nothing to do with it. But the fact that it's such wrong-headed thinking that, because they're not living in some highly populated area that nobody's going to know how to use a gun. That's so silly. They live in the wild. There must be all manner of threats there, and obviously them being threatened by raiders and things. This exist. Why would they not know how to use a weapon? It's, to me, that's and this is just a widespread argument. I don't understand that component. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. Living out in the wilds is even more reason that everyone would. That's in our in our reality, in this world. Living out in the wild is where people are more likely to be able to competently wield a firearm. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why it was written that way, and it weakened the episode. I understand that they wanted to really push the idea that the Mandalorian and Cara Dune helped train these people a little bit and prepare them, and they wanted that to have a bigger impact, but it's just silly. So yeah, the episode has some weak points, has some weaknesses, and missteps, but woke it is not. There's absolutely, I don't see any wokeness happening at all. The Cara Dune Mandalorian fight, just not there. It's just not there. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.